Hello everyone, StarUltros here, bringing you once again news from Final Fantasy Brave Exvius JP. Today we do have a lot of units to cover, not a lot of events though, because the maintenance is kind of weird, and it's only bringing the events tomorrow. But here it is, and actually the banners are only going to drop tomorrow as well, but we're going to cover the units right away anyway. So we're getting Final Fantasy 8. And you'll see, they're finishing, I think, the light team, but there's a couple of underwhelming things here and there. We'll talk about it as we go. So first, as usual, we're gonna start with Squall because he's the main character. So if they have to do a banner for Final Fantasy 8, he has to be the headlining boy. So his categories are light, lightning, water. Also, they made him, an attacker, obviously, but a physical tank. So he's going to be a little bit like Onion Knight, but he doesn't have a shift form. So we'll see if he's any good at all. And then Final Fantasy 8, obviously, Guardians, Elite Soldiers, Saviors, and Sword Masters. So pretty good categories here. With his banner, definitely like bringing the Guardians forward. I think they're definitely the best tag now. Rebels is so yesterday, even though Lightning is still good. She's also a Guardian, so she's going to fit in teams with him. You'll see later when we look at his leader skill. In terms of TMR, well, it's an accessory giving him a little bit of attack. Machine Killer, obviously, because FF8 is always machines. And then a little bit of a flat attack and defense. So it's an accessory you're going to want to have on him just for the flat stats. And then, sorry, for his STMR, that's where I think it's a little underwhelming. It's basically the old Irvine's, or Irvine, I don't know how you pronounce his name, his old, like the old 7 stars STMR, but with 100% double hand instead of only 50%. But still 100% beast killer, which is nice, but it's not new. So this is competing with something from a 7 star, so it's not great. Or the 7-star one was too busted. I'll let you decide. In terms of the vision card, that's where it's very underwhelming because the vision card's always been kind of a throwaway thing no one really cares about. But here we are looking at even a weaker card. So they're basically reusing the old vision card that they had for FF8 units, I think. So really, really poor stats. No one's ever going to use this. No one should ever use this. It's ridiculous. Like we need a complete overhaul. We need like new vision cards now. Someone needs to come and top those premium cards we've been using forever now. Can we get something a little better? Like power creep there. It's just a little something, and I don't know. It irritates me that we're not getting anything better in terms of vision cards. And it's been what, like a year and even more that nothing's been like doing well. Yeah, it's been over a year. Like the best cards we have are basically those like Yuna's card, like what was it? Esper of Ruin Rain, and Esper of Ruin Venus cards. Like those are the best cards out there right now. Like we need a little something to just bring like higher stats from the cards. Nothing too crazy. Like they can just go to 180, 190, maybe 200 if they want to go crazy, or maybe give more 1000 flat stats and the LB damage with it. Like just a little something. Go like be creative. Like no, you don't need to always power creep with all those how do you call them, overdrive abilities, and like just giving more and more amplifies. Go with the vision cards a little bit. Anyway, that was my rant. Sorry for this. Moving on, his EX ability at EX3 is Overkiller for plants. So once again, and I repeat this in every video, I thought we were done with every races. Maybe this is a repeat, or it's just because the current Dark Vision boss is a plant, so it's very apropos to have it there. Moving on to the rest of his kit, he actually has 30% to all resistance, which to all elements, which is pretty nice as a tank. But he's a physical tank. Let's not forget. But he's got this, so it's pretty cool. He has a weapon quest that we're gonna get. If I remember correctly, the weapon quest is not coming right after maintenance. It's gonna be tomorrow. Um, but you're gonna be able to go and get his weapon. It is not better than the Dark Vision's greatsword, but it's still pretty good. And you're gonna be putting the greatsword on somebody else. So that's it. In terms of his kit, he is a light unit first and foremost. So at EX1, he gets the 500% LB damage. He gets also an AoE 150 amplify for light. And then at EX2, that's where he gets the new meta 300% amplify for himself, a little bit like Ultimate Rain. Um, so that's pretty good for him. It's going to be very high damage. The rest of his kit, the usual. He's got tanking, he's got provoke, he's got a elementless ability here, just some chaining. The whole thing becomes like 11,000 times modifier with all the buffs and everything, which is pretty good. But you're gonna need to chain it with other abilities before to deal more damage. And you're gonna want to use his LB at any time anyway because he's an overdrive unit. He also has some breaks, 88% to every stat, which is, pretty. It's just for 2 turns, which is in effect like effectively 3. But it's pretty nice, for as a backup if ever the boss dispels or to start the fight. And it's a very rare 88% on attack and magic, which is nice for a tank unit. He's got some draw spells abilities there that we're gonna look at a little later down the line. He's got an 100 amplify for all his elements on a 3-turn cooldown. That's for 2 turns. So if ever you're using lightning or water instead of light, then you can use that. Or for longer fights, you're gonna be using this after. And then the rest of his kit, he does have a 60% imperil for swords, great swords, and guns, because he can use guns obviously as a gunblade user. So that's pretty cool, bringing another weapon into the 60% imperil meta. But you're probably not going to be giving him a gun anyway, but that should be for his friend Laguna. Well, for his daddy Laguna. Spoiler alert, I'm sorry. Then he gets the on the cover here as all tanks, and then he's got some coverage at 200% resist for wind, light, and dark. So this is basically like all those bar Darja, bar Warja, and all, but without the LB fill component, which is kind of sad. But it's 3 elements in one, so that's pretty good anyway. In terms of the rest of his kit, we can go look at, yeah, he's got some autocast stuff. Obviously, he has the tanking passive for a lot of defense because he's a physical tank, and they don't want you to waste any gear for giving him any defense or resistance. So he should be covering everything with just this, like Crimson Rain or like Onion Knight. However, Onion Knight having a shift form for his tanking makes it a little easier to use as a tank than him, I would say, especially when you need to have some ailment resist or elemental resistance as well for some other damage. So we'll see how it goes for him. And then the passives. So he starts giving the entire team 200% light resist, which is really good, and the preemptive not break, sorry, preemptive cover for physical. As most tanks nowadays have. Then here, those are some abilities you unlock with his skill right here to give some modifier for his chaining ability here. So then you're gonna want to cast these before you cast. Sorry, right here. So you're gonna want to cast these right before you cast the other ability altogether for maximum damage, and that's how you're gonna get like 11,000 modifier. Then the draw spells he has. So you have a dispel that removes all buffs from an enemy. So it's not a regular dispel; it's a perfect dispel. It's not on demand. It's only for, like, I'm scrolling back up here. It's only for one use, sadly. Um, but this is only on a 3-turn cooldown. So if you need to dispel every turn, that's a nasty fight, and you probably want to bring somebody else to take care of it. Then he also has some some LB fill. Um, I think this is also triple castable, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it is. So you could triple cast that ability in one turn to give, a full LB gauge to someone. It's only one ally, so it's not as good as, say, Lightning, who can fill almost the full LB gauge for everyone. But he can fill the full LB gauge for one ally at least. He also has Reflect, if ever that can be in your niche strategy for a fight. We've seen sometimes, some people requesting to Censar for videos not using the Reflect ring. Well, now you can cast Reflect without having Carbuncle equipped, at least on 3 people per turn, per 3 turns. Yeah, that's not great. That's not gonna work. Also, because it's only reflecting one spell. Then you have Draw Pain here for Poison, Blind, and Silence infliction to one enemy. Unfortunately, it's just 90%. But if you want to bring him to, say, Grace of Water, he can silence Siren without having to put that pesky Toxic Rain on someone. It should work. So he has that in his kit, which is nice, but mostly useless everywhere else. Then he also starts the fight with 100% killer to all races, 200% LB buff, and also 300 attack buff. He also has the preemptive break for 145 to lightning, water, and light, his elements, and 87% defense, like most DPS nowadays have. This is pretty standard, and also 50% amplify for his elements to all allies as well, which is pretty nice if you want to do turn 1 kills. Also, another thing I forgot to mention, because everyone can summon in Final Fantasy VIII, so it is very lore accurate that he could be giving fields. So he has a 30% light imperil field and a 30% water imperil field. So the water is with Leviathan, and the light is with Alexander. Um, so it's nothing to write home about, but he has it if ever you don't have anything better in your team. He can imperil some extra percentage to the enemy for those elements. Sadly, Thunder has been left out, but if you're using a Thunder team, even if he's going to be part of it, you're going to have Lightning, who's going to be doing a better job at it anyway. Then he does also have Enlightka, which is really nice, and Protecga +3 as a physical tank. It makes sense, so that's pretty good. His leader skill is 1500 to attack magic to all light allies, so very flexible. You don't need like 2 different categories. This is just light. So anyone that is light is going to get this. Very, very good. And then his overdrive is for Guardians, and that's why I was saying that Guardians are eating good. So Guardians are getting 300% stat buff, they're getting 100% LB damage buff, and they are getting a 50% damage increase through the middle field, like Rain is doing right now, like Ultimate Rain is doing right now. So that's pretty stacked. It's very, very good. Like the only thing you need now is probably another either elemental or tag damage increase like this one, but not being a field, and you got every basis covered. So very, very good. And then in terms of his LB, he is elementally flexible in terms of his 3 elements. And it is a 1500 times modifier. So very good. He's probably going to be hitting the hard. I think he's going to be hitting the hardest because he can use the Dark Vision's Greatsword. He has a 300% amplify, and he has like some pretty good overdrive and everything. So overall, a very good unit. If you have the light team to go along with it, if you have Karina, Laguna as well is going to be necessary for it. We're going to look at it later. Squall, Knights of Grandshelt, Return of the Lost Nation, and who else am I missing? I know I'm missing somebody else, but if you have, if you have the whole team, definitely going to be very good for light content, or dark visions. It's going to be very competitive. So if you have it, by all means, pull for him. I don't think I have the resources to do it anymore, and I don't really have that great of a light team anyway, so it's fine. Now let's move on to Laguna, um, who is naturally charismatic, apparently, and also Squall's dad. So his categories are kind of limited, unfortunately. He has light, ice, lightning, and water, so a lot of elements at least. He is attacker, support, and breaker, FF8, and elite soldiers, and that's all. So he doesn't have guardians, unfortunately, to go with Squall. So you'll need maybe a lightning to go there to give a little bit of overdrive for him. Um, I mean, she would fit very well with the team anyway. So if you can activate the overdrive from her, it should cover him. But then again, he is a breaker, so you don't really necessarily think of him for damage first anyway. So his TMR, a little bit underwhelming once more, because who needs chain modifier cap by 50%? No one does. I don't know why they did that, but here we are, and also 50% to chain speed. So this is kind of a throwaway thing, but it's nice to have, and this is never going to be useful on anyone in the world that I know of. Now his STMR is a gun, obviously, because he is the man with the machine gun. One of the best songs in the franchise, by the way, in my opinion. Well, best battle music, I should say. Maybe like top three. Top three. Let's go top three. Then it gives also 75 killers for humans and plants, because the current Dark Vision boss is plant, and 500 flat attack for him. Same card as Squall, so we're not going to talk about it. And 50%. Sorry, the EX ability is 50% overkiller for aquatics. This one now I am convinced that this one we do have. So they're rolling a second batch now, which is nice because I don't have a single one of them yet, because I've been too lazy to be doing the true grace trials, and I haven't had a single one of those units maxed out to EX3 just yet. For the rest of his kit, so he has at EX1 just the 500% LP damage, and then he gets at EX2 the 300% amplify for light for himself. See, I didn't remember looking at that earlier in his kit, so that's actually really, really good. Maybe you will look at him for damage. So lightning should be there to give him an overdrive. The rest of his kit also really, really good for something here. You can see he has different killer abilities. So he has one ability here for 250 human killer for one ally. Same for plants as well. But another ability here that gives to 250% human killer for himself and a friend. So he can give killers to 3 different units in a single turn. So that's a first. And it's also 250%, which is the highest we can give. Like if you bring those dedicated killer buffers, like Ihana or Elmatal or Elmatil, I don't remember whether that's her JP name or English name, but that those units, it's better than them because you're not wasting a slot for it, and he can give 3 in a single turn. Um, and then like some other units might be able to give 200% to other units to cover the rest. So that's very, very, very good for human and plants. Now those races are going to get destroyed if you have these 2 units, Laguna and Squall together, because the light team is really going to be strong with this. In terms of the rest of the kit, he does have some clunky boosting abilities that we're going to look at later, for chaining damage. And then he also has the 90% break for defense and spirit, and 100. And it's this is very good because this is attached to the same skill with the 180 imperil to light, water, lightning, and ice. We didn't have that on other breakers before. That's a first. Usually they had a different skill for it. Um, Obviously, if you have the full light team, then you're gonna have Knights of Grandchild, who's gonna be taking care of the 250% in peril, or maybe Tyvis. If like Tyvis, kind of he's kind of the budget option for 200%, but you get 180 here anyway. And then he has the 75% light in peril field, which is that one missing piece of the puzzle we needed for light. Um, so now Light Team is complete. He has the 600% stat buff for himself and a friend. This is getting more and more common. About having this on your breaker and kind of a DPS unit at the same time, very, very good. And like you can easily have everyone in your team covered by this 600% stat buff now. The usual for the rest of his kit, and he also has his 2-stack Mirage for everyone, same as his old Neovision unit, so that's very good. Uh, so that's bringing Mirage into the light team because I don't think we really had any for a pure light team anyway. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Then he also has some AoE breaks, which you're probably never going to be using unless it's a longer fight and the boss dispelled, or you really need to like burst a little bit more, and the other breaks have gone off because they're only on the boss for 4 of your turns on a 5-turn cooldown. So that might be like that 5th turn you want to deal more damage, so you could use that, but that should not see too much use anyway. But this is AOE at least. The rest of his kit. Was there anything to? No, there's literally nothing to mention there. He has some evasion though. Yay, evasion. Um, so, his abilities that were unlocked with his cooldown that we saw a little earlier, higher in his kit. So you get a quad cast, which you can use to only use one ability once. Like you can't use the same ability 4 times. So this is to use all those buffs that he gets. So when he casts this thing, he gets all 4 of these on turn 1. Well, if you cast it on turn 1, it's auto casted on turn 2 for the A version, and auto casted on turn 3 for the B version. So basically, he would be good to burst using these abilities at turn 4. So you get to either use the Laguna machine gun or the Laguna shotgun that you can buff. But you can, if you're quad casting, then you can just use all 4 of them anyway. You get some mitigation there, which is pretty nice for him. Some light and lightning resistance for him as well, but usually you can have somebody else covering. Because if you're giving him some resistance, you're going to give it to the entire party. He also gets a 3-stack of Mirage for himself only, using these. And then with the B version, then he cures attack break on himself. Very good once again. Some more Mirage if ever you needed more. 50% accuracy on him, and a recovery for 500 MP, because this is going to consume a lot of MP for him when he's buffing. And then with all this together, wait, that's let's go with the machine gun because it looks like it's the strongest one. So 19, 26, well 26.5, 20, 29.5. Yeah, so 33, 34, 34. So yeah, that's about like about 10,000 times modifier. Not bad. For a breaker and not a primary DPS for his chaining ability. If ever you're using different elements, his leader skill now is 1500 to attack and magic, for elite soldiers and light. So they have to be both. If they're not both, they're not getting anything at all. So a little bit of a lackluster leader skill there. Because especially if you have him, you most likely want to have you most likely want to have Squall, who's the seed elite Squall. That's why I had this little slip there. But like you're gonna want to have Squall's leader skill anyway instead of his. In terms of LB, he is an SLB unit, locked to light for the LB, so that's why you're going to want to use his chaining ability if you're using anything else than light. Um, and so it's a 1400 modifier. So it's still pretty good for a breaker, just 100 under Squall, and he has a 300% amplify for himself. He also breaks defense and spirit 88%, and light by 180. So very good for longer fights in light anyway. And he also has a self 100% amplify before he applies the damage. So like all of the utility he might need for a longer fight is right there in his kit on his LB for a light fight. So that's it for Laguna. Now, the next unit we're going to cover is Devoted Summoner Yuna. So this was the second, the second NV version of her. The one of the last units that Global got. She got an NV plus Awakening, and now she's getting crowns on top of that. So we're gonna go look at her crowns, and you're gonna see that there's a new trend now. We didn't really think that was ever possible, but evokers might be, well, I'm not gonna say good, but might pull their weight in terms of damage now. So her crowns will give her here an extra 150 times modifier for her LB, and also lower here down the line, an auto cast ability at the beginning of the fight that we're gonna go look at. So this auto cast ability here gives her another extra 150 to her LB at the beginning of the fight. So that's an extra 300. And, like there's for the abilities as well. I didn't really take the time to calculate her abilities. Maybe even her chain might be good, because with all this and her pendant, the buff that she has from her old version's STMR, was it? Yeah. I think this might also be viable. Then the LB, she has what was 100 times. So you had 300. You add 300 to that, so that's 400, and then to that again you add the modifier buffs from her pendant, and the thing that she casts during the fight as well. If I'm not mistaken, she has it as well, right? Yeah, for the extra evoke damage. So all of this considered, even if she can't benefit from the ally amplify field as an evoker, I think she's gonna have some pretty decent damage. And it's light damage, so if you don't have a full light team, she might fit right in there. Like the only thing is, unfortunately, using a staff, um, the imperil for it is not going to be as high. But she's no like evocation might no longer be as much of a meme as it used to be. And further to that, we're going to go look at the next unit, which is Dark Fortress von Harma. This was the unit that you could unlock if you would participate in the Dark Visions Abyss that ended last week. He's no, did it end last week, or is it ending? No, it's only ending now. Yeah, sorry. So if you participate in Abyss and you rank well enough, then you can get that unit. He is a light lightning dark mage, and he's also an evoker, as all the Dark Visions Abyss units. He's also Rebellion, Gathering, Harbingers of Chaos, Guardians, and Elite Soldiers. So he's once again like he has tons of categories because it's Von Harma. Like he already had a lot of categories like the unit itself. So now they're just slapping a couple extra more on him on this version. His TMR is the classic same thing that they've given to literally all of the Dark Visions Abyss units, so we're not going to talk about it. His STMR is the only magic axe in the game that I know of, so 220 magic, and then 500 flat magic for him, and some LB damage, so it's only going to be used by him ever, but it's there anyway. His EX ability at EX3 is a flat 500 attack and magic for the rewards unit category. So once again, only for him. because I don't think there's any other NV plus unit from the rewards. Oh no, never mind. I think the wait, give me a second. Kefka, for example. Hmm. Is it him? This one? No. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna find it. Choose BB Kefka, maybe. Mm-mm. Yeah. Anywho, um, I think. Oh, there he is. Sorry, I found him. He's yeah, he has a reward, so all the SBB units as well would benefit from it. So never mind, that could be useful for other people, not just him. Sorry for that little tangent here. Now let's go look at the rest of his kit. Past this, he is immune to all status ailments, like the original Van Harma, so that's pretty nice. His selection of weapons is absolutely abysmal, but you're going to be using his STMR on him all the time. The rest of equipment makes sense. He can equip basically everything. So at EX1, he's getting the 500% LB damage buff. This is pretty much the norm now, I think. Like everyone in this update anyway is getting it at EX1. Thank you. And he is getting a 200% amplify only for himself at EX2. So, that's not that great, but it's a free unit, so sure. Then the rest, he has 100% evocation damage buff for all allies and 200% LB damage buff only for himself. So that's not something you'd be using much for the LB buff, but at least for the evoke damage. Then he's got some chaining abilities for all his elements. He's got a couple of evocation abilities for his elements as well, but not all of them, I think. No, no. Okay, it's Bolting Strike and Chaos Wave. Sorry. Then he has his LB modifier buff at 80 times. It's not as high as Yuna got, but you're gonna see when we look at his actual modifier that it's not that bad anyway. He has a little imperil for light, lightning, and dark. Um, didn't he have another element? Nope. Okay. So light, lightning, and dark, 160% for. So it's AOE, so it's not too bad. He has a field, which is a 50% amplify for lightning, light, and dark. So once again, not something that's really going to be useful for him. He's got a little bit similar to what he has in his regular form, the regular NV Van Harma with the 27 chain count ability, 3,000 times modifier, and imperiling all elements. You could triple cast this. It is never gonna chain. I can guarantee you can never chain this with anyone. If you triple cast this with another Van Harma, for example, it's gonna break. It is gonna break for sure. Then he's got 100% lightning and light resist buff for everyone, which is pretty nice. He's got a Celeste-like ability, but unfortunately it's not full uptime, and it's only 50% general mitigation. So Celeste and Luna Freya are still the queens of mitigation for the team. He does have also another cooldown ability for himself, though, which is provoke and then 99% damage mitigation, which makes him pretty much invincible that turn. And then another ability here that he could cast every turn, up to 10,000 times modifier. And it's 5 hits, so it's a little bit like those finisher LBs that we have with only 5 hits. If ever you wanted to use specifically light damage and specifically him as a finisher, that could be something you use. But I don't think that's where his value lies unless you have a really good amplify field. I guess I don't know how that really compares, honestly. I'm not the king of math, so I haven't really mathed his thing like this in comparison to his fully buffed LB. Now, the rest of his kit, I don't think he had too much to talk about, but he does have an Imperil field. If you summon Alexander, it's only 35%, but like he can take care of both fields, so that's nice. He has some chain speed as well. I didn't notice that. Yeah, he has some chain speed, and yeah, that's about it. The rest is Yeah, a little bit the same thing as what he has regular Van Harma with Earth, right? Except he also imbues, if I'm not mistaken. So this one doesn't imbue because he's a mage anyway, so that wouldn't really matter. But there's some light imperil and some light amplify for himself. He does have a leader skill. It's just 300% to evocation units, so you're probably not going to be using this. And he is an SLB unit. Sorry. And his SLB is basically like it's flexible for all his elements, so light, lightning, and dark. So that's a 410 times, to which you add that 80 times from his buff. So that's 490, and then you add all the other buffs from well, maybe another evocation unit or Yuna's pendant to a whopping, I don't remember what the modifier is from Yuna, but he gets something that's very high. So he's gonna hit like a truck for an evoker. I think he might be like he might be meta in terms of damage. Maybe for a light, yeah, maybe for a light team. Maybe you want to bring him. Um, let me know if it goes well. I think I might have him 2EX2 if I'm lucky enough. I do have Karina on one of my accounts, so maybe I will try a light team. We'll see. We'll see. I don't have the resources to pull for Laguna and Squall though. But yeah, that's it for the new units. Now, to finish with a little something lighter that we don't really care much about, we got EX abilities for this month. So the first one is Yish, and I don't know if you're lucky like me, but I have maybe like 6 or 7 copies of her lying around over the over the EX3 that I already have. So I might get a lot of things from her. So her EX bonus are 400% LB damage buff and also 320 times modifier for her LB. Um, Sadly, it's a Magnus ability, so you can only use it once. But you know, she's a breaker. She's an old unit. Why would you use her for damage? Then she's got a 180 ice and peril on a cooldown ability, so that's nice. And spear and peril 40%. And yeah, that's about it. The rest of her kit, she also gets this ability here for more flat attack and an auto cast here similar to Yuna's. And we're going to see it's a common theme for the new units now. So if we look, this ability is a 370 times. So she got 370 here, 320 from the buff at the top of her kit, all together stacking to a whopping, well, 1000 if you're using the LB buff from Tidus's STMR or Esper of Ruin Last Will's armor. So yeah, 1000 time. But you know, she's an old unit, so if ever you're using her for some old content where you know everything is restricted, maybe she's going to be pulling more weight. Now, next one is Call, a unit no one's ever used in history, and it's gonna remain the same, I'm pretty sure. Maybe some people have used it for the Garuda Tower second floor because of the evasion field. Yeah, it was an accuracy downfield. Yeah. So what he's getting is a 70% amplify field for the team. Sadly, completely useless for him because his LB is fixed damage, and you're never going to be using his Blizzaja as big damage, I don't think, because try to change that into into some regular damage. That's not going to go so well. Like quad casting Blizzaja, I don't think it's going to be too easy. So even though he's getting this here for some modifier for it, oh no, sorry, that's the LB modifier. Yeah, I kind of completely glossed over it. Sorry. So that's not Blizzaja. So yes, Blizzaja has been left in the dust. His LB modifier though gets an extra 3,000 times. That looks crazy, but remember it's fixed damage, so he needs crazy numbers to be somewhat useful. So we're gonna look at the rest of his kit for whatever else he has. Um, he's got another EX ability here for some Blizzaja modifier, but also attack and magic, some flat attack and magic, and the same thing as Yish and Yuna earlier. Um, yeah, parameter increase. That's what it's called. Yeah, well, that's what it does. Big parameter. Wow, I have a hard time with that word. Parameter increase for his LB. So we got 5,900 extra modifier for him. Um, being fixed damage, I don't even think that 100 times modifier from Tejas' STMR or Last Will's STMR would apply to him. So you're just looking at here an 8100 times modifier for his SLB. That looks crazy, but remember, it's not taking into account the amplify field, and it's not using killers either. I played around with the numbers for this one. Like, I don't know why this one I decided to play with the numbers, and it's looking around a 1,000 time modifier for an LB. So kind of the same ballpark as Yish. Now, next one is a unit no one ever pulled for, a unit no one ever wanted, Christmas Domino. So here she is in all her glory. And what she got in terms of EX abilities is, sorry, 400% LB damage, 150 amplified because she never had that before because she's very old. And she's getting 150 times extra LB modifier. She has a 70% wind amplify field, which is on par with the highest we have right now, which I think is Benedicta. And I'm pretty sure I forget, but there's probably somebody else that has one. But I only have Benedicta in mind for that just yet. The rest of her kit, she also gets, you can see it coming. Parameter increase. This time I didn't miss it. I didn't mess it up. And she gets a little bit more flat attack because she was weaker, I guess. She needs more love. And her parameter increase is 300 times. So that's 450 times more for her. So if we look at her LB, we have to remember that she has that double, that, like, how do you call that? Like racial. Yeah, those racist LB. Man, we're just gonna call it how it is. So if you're fighting an insect, she's gonna deal a whole lot more, just a tiny more damage. If she's not fighting an insect, that's gonna be basically like 1,200. Yeah, 1,200 times. Um, so not bad, I guess, for a regular NV unit. And since wind is pretty much a dead element, she's probably one of the strongest in that element right now. So yay Domino, I guess. Continuing with the wind team, another one we got here for EX abilities is Silent Night Charlotte. Um, she's a tank, so there's probably not much to write home about, but she is getting some stuff. So she's getting an Omni cover, which is great, but you're probably going to be bringing literally anyone else than her as a tank anyway. She's also getting some stat buffs and some mitigation, which is 50% physical mitigation because she didn't have any physical mitigation in her kit. And she's also, yeah, it's kind of weird though. Physical, she's a magic tank. And only physical mitigation against dragons and insects. That's 75%, which is really good. Um, Sadly, it's yeah. Maybe it's because she's not covering that damage. I guess that kind of makes sense. Okay, I have no gripes with it. In terms of the rest of her kit, she also gets a parameter increase. Yay! She's gonna be so much stronger. But she doesn't have any LB modifier buff in her kit otherwise. So she only has the parameter increase here and a little extra spirit for her as well. So if we look, her parameter increase is it's just so it's not any LB damage. It's just the preemptive wind resist 200% and also preemptive magic cover for the team. So her LB remains untouched and untalked about. Last unit we have on the line is Ilmatal, Elmatil, whatever her, like if you look here, yeah, Edumatiru and Ilmatal here. And so her EX abilities as a support unit, like we're still using her every now and then, so might be good. She's getting AoE 150 Ice Amplify. I mean, if you're bringing her, might as well use that if nobody else can do it. And then this here is really good though. She's getting a 400% stat buff, but also resistance to all breaks, which is something we've been needing lately with the Dark Visions bosses. A lot of them have been breaking us, so now we can finally resist those breaks if we're bringing her for killers, I guess. Also, she's getting the same thing as Vanaharama in terms of Celeste-like mitigations, and I'm doing air quotes here, even though you can't see it. So she's getting 50% to general mit and 75% to both others. Um, so that can be very good if you don't have bigger mitigations. So she's pretty good for that. And that's about it. Yeah, that's about it for her kit. In terms of events, I don't have any images, so you're gonna have to imagine everything. We're gonna have obviously a Mog King event to go farm like crazy for FF8. We're also gonna get a weapon quest for Squall. We're also gonna get Yuna's crown quests. And last but not least, but only coming next week, so not for this update, but with next maintenance, we're going to be getting Ultimecia. I don't know how you pronounce that name. Ultimecia. So you know the SBB, the true SBB, coming with her unit as well. I think it's been a long time coming to have her as a unit because she's a humanoid. She wasn't any like specifically per hard sprite to make, and I was kind of disappointed we didn't have a unit for her. So now we're gonna have one of her, and hopefully she's good. I'm expecting fire and light from her in terms of elements. We'll see what they give her next week in the next video. So I think I covered everything this time. Because I like every time I stop recording, I think, oh, I forgot about this. Oh, I forgot about that. And since I forget to do it in every other time I mentioned it to him, I will take a special moment to thank Everfrost for how quick he is to provide us with the data mine every time for the units. It's very appreciated. Thank you very much for your hard work. And yeah, thank you very much for joining, and see you in 2 weeks. Bye.